What's good? I am Yish. This is Yish in Your Ear. Today we are taking a look at the massive library that is Spitfire Symphony Orchestra Professional. Let's go. Yish in Your Ear. So what you get with the library is generally here. So you have the bottom three here, the original Spitfire Symphony libraries. The professional versions that you see at the top adds additional microphones, articulations, and options to make each one of these parts of the orchestra complete. Beautiful sounding. I couldn't even get to all of the stuff because the composition didn't necessarily call for it. But there is enough stuff in this thing, enough articulations, enough microphone options that will allow you to create a complete composition with this alone. Now, this does not come with any percussion. It is just the strings, the woodwinds, and the brass. And there is also one other additional library, and that is Masse. The Masse is a combination. So you get like tutti, the full orchestra, but when you need that, you also get a lot of ensembles. So the brass ensembles, the woodwind ensembles, and the string ensembles. So it allows you to not necessarily have to load up all of your libraries just to get the full player set in there, right? So let us take a look at this beautiful sounding library, and then we'll get to, of course, what I did with it. Here is the horn solo in the brass section. It has the ability to change the closeness or farness of the microphones. So it's called Easy Mix. You have the dynamics, which is generally controlled by your modulation wheel. For the legato, we have speed and variation. And then we have expression. Now, for the most part, I use dynamics and expression in the composition that I came up with. So as you click each one of these, of course, the articulation changes based off of what you have here. So if we do a test, you can hear now it's only one note being played at a time. So you can hear the bending of the pitch as it changes from note to note. Long would be if you needed more of polyphonic, right? You have marcato, you have tenuto, my favorite, staccato, rip. The harder you hit it, the shorter it is. Fall. And these articulations you won't use in everything, but now, the dynamics generally works with long notes, right? So if I'm in legato here, I turn the dynamics down, you can hear it's a lot lower in the note. Now, this lower note is not just volume. It is the actual dynamic change in the way the instrument is played. So as you go up, you can hear that there's a change in the way the instrument is played. Now, with legato, there is no velocity here. It's one note, one volume. So velocity or volume, in this case, you would change either with the dynamics or with the expression. So the difference between, of course, expression and dynamics is expression is more like velocity. It's just the change in the volume. So if I have full dynamics, the expression would allow that dynamic to be played at a lower volume. So that gives you real good flexibility on how you can present the instrument's texture in the composition. Now, legato speed. So if I do slow, as opposed to fast. You can see the legato has a shorter transfer time between notes. And of course, you would use that to get that feel. If you want something that runs through, you would use a much faster speed in that regards. If you want something that's a little slower, just the opposite. Now, variations. Switch between articulation variations. Not quite clear. I'm gonna have to read the manual on that one. But it's an option. It's an option that gives you deeper capabilities with the software, right? That's always a beautiful thing. Now, in the basic settings here, we do have, of course, the option to adjust the microphones independently here. But there, of course, is other options in here. The button below each articulation here allows you to unload that articulation and save on memory. So if you look here in the memory field, as I uncheck a box, you'll see the memory is being decreased. So if you're only using one articulation, uncheck the ones that you do not plan to use for that library, and you will save yourself some memory. And of course, each one of these has different options based on the articulation. You get round robin options in here for most of these. It just removes that nasty machine gun sound. It gives you a more natural sound. Most folks know that. With the legato, you do get the option to have poly or monophonic legato based off of velocity. To the right here is all of the controllers. You right click on these, and these allow you to change which control change message is assigned to those particular options, right? So that's kind of like the basic interface that comes with the software itself. This here is the tweak section that I didn't even touch this, and it breaks it down here for, let's see if I switch this over to, so hitting the information box here, to click this to tweak the last note played via the cog system. Click and drag to change the range of keys used for key switching. Switch via CC, assign this control via control right click to switch articulations. And then set up advanced key switching methods. This is a different architecture than the supply GUI or delivery method that they have for like the Abbey Road Studio One library. So it's a little more deep than that one, and requires some investment in time and learning. And so those options are there. I will read the manual and will offer a deeper, in-depth look at some of the additional stuff that the options allow you to do, right? This box here is it's called, I'm going to butcher the name, Ostinatum machine. This is essentially a MIDI player that allows you to, and it seems to be only with the short notes, that allows you to program notes. I turn it on and play them, right, on one key. Deep, again, a different video. All right, so that's kind of the interface itself. Let us pull up an additional instrument here. So I'm going to replace that one with horns A2, which is an additional option here. Let's see here what we have. Now I will say something. One, this library, of course, is massive. Two, once you load these in Contact, when you load it again, it loads faster. But there's also options in Contact, and I would suggest you look at a Contact video tutorial on that. There's a way to sort of resave your library so that they load even faster. I did not do any of that with this. So this is another library of gorgeous sound. Let's see, horn A6. And of course, these are different horns. So if you have a horn part that is two separate instruments, or you want to use two separate instruments instead of putting it all in one, these are variations on that, right? And as you see, it is changing based off of what instrument you have loaded. The controllers as well as the key switches. This was not in the other one, right? So this little guy here. More options. More options. Sync to tempo. Wow. Let me see something. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So with the multi-tongue here, it will actually play according to your tempo. That's the horns A6. So now we're loading the tenor trombone. So as you can see, it has changed to vibrato, right? That is a muted long note. So with most of the staccatos, the dynamics do not change the sound. So a combination of velocity and expression would be the same as dynamics. And that's how you would use that. So you get the difference between a clean note and a vibrato note. Moving along, bass trombone. And you can see some of the same stuff is here. Let's go to A2. Beautiful. Now I talked about this Hall trigger, right? So let me turn it off. And turn it on. Yeah, the reverb changes based off of the dynamics. Now I can go through each one of these, but as you can see, it is the full brass section here, right? What is a cimbasso? This is a cimbasso. Wow. That is a interesting looking instrument. So it almost looks like a combination of a trumpet and a trombone, right? So that's pretty much the type of brass that you get here, right? Now there is some additional stuff here. This is where the Pro Library, what the Pro Library adds is some of these extra options. So we have stereo mixes. So this microphone sounds like this. As opposed to this microphone. This appears to be a mix of the two. Interesting. So stereo mixes, and then wait a minute, in the stereo mixes there's also the advanced option. Look at this. This is what you're paying for. This is a massive thing, man. We have tuba solo, right? So let's see, we have tuba solo chord techniques, and each one of the instrument groups kind of goes this deep. So this is the extended techniques under the advance for the stereo microphones. Long flutter. Oh. Okay, wait a minute. Now this was not included in the key switches. So there's additional. Whoo. Yes. I see it now. Yeah. This library is massive, man. That's staccatissimo. Staccatissimo. I don't know how to pronounce that. Short staccatissimo as opposed to short staccato. So let's load up short staccato in parallel here. And let me change this to Omni. Right, so I'll solo this one. Ooh, yes. So short staccatissimo is shorter than staccato. And that's just that one articulation. So if you needed that, you can load just that. And you can see it's very small, 112 megabytes. So if you needed just that, that's an option. That's how deep this thing is. All right. So as you can see, we have folders and folders and folders and folders. We have stereo legato horn solo. What? Bells up crochet. Wow. Oh, goodness. Wait a minute, man. So bells up, I would imagine bells up, like the end of the instrument is pointed more in the air. So that's a different playing technique that you don't get. Yeah. So as you can see, lots of options in here. All right. So that's the stereo mix stuff. That's just the stereo mix stuff. You get these options also. We go to alternative microphones. So let's try this. That sounds like a close mic. This is a... And you can blend to your heart's content. Get a real huge sound with this thing, man. All right, so you have alternative mics with each one of the instruments. Now you also have the CTAO mics, again, with an advanced section, with all of the extended techniques just for those microphones, the individual articulations for those microphones. Wow. What a CTAO, close tree ambience. And the O is an additional microphone. So let me go into the settings, see what O sounds like by itself. That's very clean. Ambience by itself. Right? We get that. Tree mics. This is usually what gives an instrument, or not an instrument, what gives the room its sound. And this is the sound of this room for orchestra recordings. The tree mics. I think these are outer mics, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I like that. That's very clean, but it gives you, it's a clean ambient sound to it, right? Not a lot of bottom end. When you use the ambient ones, you can hear the bottom. With the tree ones, you get more of the direct instrument, but with the bottom, right? Of course, close microphone is raw, sitting in front of the instrument. You're still picking up some ambience, but you're right there in front of the instrument. So to be able to blend these and have an infinite number of combinations of getting a sound out of your orchestra, that is beautiful, beautiful. So with those microphones, you get all of the extra additional techniques, articulations, and other patches. I didn't look at other patches, did I? So this is even more smaller economic decorative CTAO. So this is an even smaller footprint of these instruments. All right. So we have the decorative ones. We have the longs, we have the shorts. So if I just needed this one instrument to do staccato, marcato, or tenuto, then we can do that here with these microphones, saving much in RAM. What we have next here is the string section. So you get ensembles, basses, cello, violas, or violas, however you want to pronounce them. And then you get violins 1 and 2. And of course, just like with the brass, you get the extended techniques, right, with the main offering. And then with the alternative mics, we get the alternative mics, and then the extended techniques, articulations, and other patches. Now, I see here a performance legato that I found in one of the brass libraries. You have an actual folder for that, right? So anyway, we have violins, right? Just plain old violin 1. And I say plain, there's nothing plain about it. We have our long, and there's no legato on this one, so it's just straight and long, right? Spiccato. Short, my absolute favorite. Pizzicato. Collegno. Another of my favorite, tremolo. I love trios, especially this one for the flutes. I love it for the flutes, but yeah. Vibrato here. You can crossfade between the two. The release. So I'm just hitting the keys, and the release is being controlled by, of course, that. And the tightness. Maybe it works better on spiccato. So, again, you have the options for each one of your articulations, and everything is assignable. And again, if you have short notes selected, you get the ostinatum machine, which allows you to program notes to be triggered, right? Cool. So that's violins. You also have violins too. All right. So you have the same articulations, but with a different set of violins. This is violin 1. And this is violin 2. So you have a different texture. Let's see what the spiccato sounds like for these two. So violin 1. Violin 2. Yeah, it's a different texture. So that gives you, so that things don't sound like you're using the same instrument all over again, right? All right, so violas. All right. I'm going right along down the scale here. We're taking a look at our cellis. Get ready. Let me move on. Boy, oh boy, you can hear the capabilities in that. Oh my goodness. This is why I couldn't go through everything, because I would just be, man. Whew. Flauntando. So, the last one we have here is ensembles. Now, string ensembles is always very important. which again saves on memory if you need to do more than one instrument type, right? Or instrument kind. Beautiful. Ooh, beautiful. One thing to note, if you're changing the microphone positions, those are not to be changed in the middle of a performance. They have to be, you won't really see somebody in an orchestra running from one microphone to another. All of the others can be done in the middle of the performance. All right, again, you have your alternative microphones and all of the advanced options that you get with those alternative microphones, the advanced options you get with the regular patches, performance legatos as we spoke about, stereo mics, advanced techniques, articulations, and patches with the stereo mics. All right, and then the CTAO mics, right? All right, so that kind of covers the strings, the woodwinds. So we have piccolos, regular flutes, alto flutes, bass flutes, oboes, clarinets, bass clarinets, contrabass clarinet, bassoon, and contrabassoon, right? And then the various, again, microphone options and their advanced options that come along with that. So piccolo flute sounds like this. Ooh. That is gorgeous. Okay, so that's the legato. Right. Now these long harmonics are very specific. I haven't learned how to use those yet. Marcato, tenuto, staccato. Of course, our trills. Flutes, alto flute. I have not listened to these yet. I used the flute solo in the composition. Ooh, other patches velocity controlled. What might we have here? This may be more like the performance options. Ah, and it is. So you see these little arrows. So based on how hard you hit the key, this is a performance patch, meaning instead of it being key switched, which in here, it does have the option to key switch, but what's happening is as I mash the key, depending on the velocity, it will change. Ooh. So the soft key, hard key, staccato, and then mid key. Well, actually, yeah, soft is marcato, mid is tenuto, and or tenuto. I don't know how to pronounce that. Hard is staccato, and then legato does not change, at least not from what I'm seeing. All right, oboes. We'll take a look at that one real quick. Nice. We have the clarinet. Ooh. Yes. Next is clarinet A2. Bass clarinet, contrabass clarinet, bassoon solo. Harmonics, staccato, no dynamics there. Tenuto, staccato, trio. Ooh. Very. Bassoon A2, contrabassoon. And this is the last instrument. Again, I'm not going to try to go through all of these instruments, man. I'll be all day. Goodness. Lovely. I love that the key sound is in there. So you can see the bassoon does not have a trio. Imagine you don't need to do that with a bassoon. Of course, again, all of the separate microphones and then the microphone extended articulations and extra techniques and so on. Now, mass. This is where you're in a crunch and you need that library. You need something that sounds good without going through a whole lot of extra. Plenty of articulation, so we have long, that's that lower growl. It's called beast. And then you have short. Ooh. That is your nemesis. So this gets straight to the point. Ooh. Nutcracker. strings is the next one, and the setup is the same, right? You get dynamics and expression, and then depending on what patch you choose, you have the 4 basic patches, right? Which is the 3 instrument sections, and then you have the tutti, which is all of the instrument sections in one. And this is strings, so we have cool strings. And actually, let me go back because it had something selected. Or was that just me? Giant Epic Long. Lots of long patches here. Cool strings. Go up the scale here. Okay. Interesting. Dramatic. Nice. Ligeti string. Lovely, lovely articulations. Mondo plucks. Interesting. So these various articulations that are not found in any of the other libraries. Ooh. All right, that's the strings. Let's look at the brass. Nice. Now this comes with extra simulated reverb. Or you can just use the CTA mics. Yeah, I could have used this to save me some time. Choir long. Ooh. That sounds more like octaves are being layered, right? And again, the mass offering here is for sketching quickly. And most of these are ensembles, if not all of them actually. They're woodwind ensembles, brass ensembles, string ensembles, and then an orchestra ensemble. So don't look for solo instruments here. Ooh. It's kind of a blend between the long and the flutter. Light short. Interesting. All right. So in the advanced folder, we have individual articulations for each one of the offerings. So that saves you memory, right? Strings. So all of the options that are in the main folder broken down so you can say time and memory. Nice. All right, so that is a look at what's on offer here without necessarily going through everything, right? What did I do with Spitfire's Symphonic Orchestra Professional? All right, so we've been through quite a bit looking at the included offerings for this massive and gorgeous sounding library. We used the flute, we used the bass clarinet, we used flute clarinet. I think this was a combination of the two. So flute, we used the flute solo here. It was a combination of the legato, the trill, and the staccato patch. Bass clarinet, we kind of just used that as an accent with just the staccato. I think we did the same thing with this one as well. Yeah, this one came later in the composition. It was a combination of the flute solo and the clarinet solo. We used the clarinets at the beginning here. It was towards the beginning of me putting together the composition. The tutti we used here, this was for kind of giving a little bit of low end for that section there. Then we also use Masse woods here to accent the pizzicatos going into the second section. The string ensemble we used for the main chord bed in this section. We use some trills, we use some runs, the pizzicatos, strings here. String bass, which is our pizzicato bass that we use throughout the composition. We use quite a bit of horns, a number of horns. I had some of these things stacked. Wow. Yep, here as well, the cymbasi. And then everything from here on down is Spitfire, but it's not, it's all percussion, as you can see, but with the exception of these guys. But these were from the other library. So we have the BBC, that was the free offering, and then the Abbey Roads, Studio One percussion. And again, we just duplicated some of that stuff because I wanted the impact to be different for some things as opposed to others. And then this is simply an audio recording of me sitting at the desk here doing that. That's simply what I felt like doing at the moment, and adding that in there just to give it some some extra flavor, right? So some of the techniques that I used, right? So let's solo flute here. Right, and then down here, so control 21 is for the vibrato. So let's open up our guide and see what we did with some of these articulations and controls, because we use that extensively. I try not to touch too much the actual volume of the track and rely more on expression and dynamics for the movement of the instrument. All right, so we did a little articulation change there, switched up the modulation and the expression based off of the feel. And again, this took me quite some time to do because I wanted everything to sound, you know, good. Bass clarinet, I don't think we used too much on that other than just switching up the articulate. No, I take that back. This we did the trills with, and as a matter of fact, both of these are playing in that section and they accent the flute. Dynamics and expression is vitally important when it comes to composing in the box. Now this is the other bass clarinet with 3 notes. So again, those 3. Sense of wonder. Cool. I really enjoyed this part. That's the floaty part. I really did enjoy that. But my favorite part, to be perfectly honest, is the end. I love doing that kind of stuff. Now, see, is there anything else that kind of stood out? I don't think this one really stood out as much. This was accent onto our pizzicatos. This section here came last, and it tickled me, to be perfectly honest. Right, just that. I call it the gnome walk. I don't know. My imagination is somewhere else, man. So yeah, we utilized the flute and clarinet. It just fit. And then that little rip down there, that's the only thing I believe. Well, it's 2 of them. Well, it's more than that. Right? That rip. The multi-tongue. And then the rip at the end. So that's what that one was for. Let's see here. Anything else that stands out? I don't think. Well, this horn section here. So we did some articulation switching there. And then the modulation, of course, changes the texture, and then the expression. We really wanted like that lead-in sound, like it really just something was coming at you. Whoa. The only other notable thing is this run that I spoke about. So this is using that performance palette patch, using the run articulation, right? And I use that in combination then with this patch, because this patch has a trill in it and the performance palette does not. So I had to use a combination of two separate instances here to get this effect, right? And then we had this pizzicato ended off. And I wanted that good blend where it wasn't abrupt. So we use some modulation to kind of give it a slow fade in without it being a volume change. And I also utilized that technique for, I think I did a combination of, let's see, of expression and modulation for our flute patch here, right? So if I play this, it comes in softly. So those are some of the notable things that I did with the library, utilizing its expression, utilizing the articulation key switches, and of course the modulation to really give it, you know, a score feel. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the review of the Spitfire Symphonic Orchestra Professional Library. So again, if you're interested, make sure you visit spitfireaudio.com for the Spitfire Symphony Orchestra Professional. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you didn't enjoy the video, let me know in the comments. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you are interested in seeing more videos from this channel. You've been watching Yish in Your Ear. Stay tuned. What?